And Baba, could you copy the link and just send it to me?
So I just want to let you know that there's they're holding up that back end. So
I just do it.
hold on on that. So
Okay, if I
And don't
use
wheel it around too, obviously.
huh?
And don't wheel it around,
Yeah, I don't
obviously.
think that would be a good idea.
Okay, so as soon as you plug in, you'll be good to go. No, no.
use this.
I don't know. Hey, Bob? Bob? Is there a way that you might
Do you have a USB-C in that?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess it's dead.
Oh.
Don't matter.
If you know anyone who can like donate us something, that would be super helpful. And we can all just use it to slide.
You want to put that on something higher, though? Put that thing on there. Because the angle that it has is like me looking down on you. Or you want to move the table there or something?
You could do that. Here, Omar, can you grab it from outside? And I'm assuming you'll need this one. We'll grab one.
Or you just put that on there.
On the shelf.
Should we just booster seat the laptop?
I don't trust the stability of that. We got this. Booster seat.
Huh?
Booster seat the laptop.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Booster seat.
Yeah. Good angle. There's not gonna be as many dudes here. I'm gonna ask them to come up more. And yeah, ready. And here, Omar. Maybe some in the back. There you go.
Yeah. Super bright.
Super bright. You offset it, right? You offset it already? Oh. Is that better?
Yeah.
All right. Whoa. No, it's in the back. There's 8. Yeah, there's a knob. All
right, that's better, yeah. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you all very much for coming to our next session in the grounding. If this is your first time here, this is our weekly series that we hold on Thursdays for young working professionals and young adults. This series is actually something that we've been planning, I believe, since last year, and we actually did a lot of previous grounding sessions to kind of prime and prepare ourselves into this. We've done a lot of groundings on emotions, family life, righteous anger. So a lot of things that I have been feeling have been slowly building up and leading into this week, which is of course going to be about the unspoken struggle of suicide, which is a very, very relevant subject to I think many of us, and it's relevant, but you wouldn't have thought it just by talking to the average person in the community. Brother Khan actually said that was a huge victory that we managed to get this flyer up on Instagram at all, but we don't want to just stop there. We want to go beyond that because this is like where the actual real conversation is going to be happening. So it is a little bit more of an intense topic. That's why we also provided you with paper resources for a lot of suicide prevention resources, hotlines, local resources. They're all in papers here. We have extras at the front if you want to take any home or give them to someone else. So we really, really hope that you appreciate this. We hope that you find value in it, inshallah. We thank you for coming. If you don't know, this is Brother Uthman Al-Talib. He is one of our regular speakers here at Upway. He is a life coach. He's also founder of Rise Coaching. He's a very, I would argue, empathetic individual, but also a very driven and committed individual. He's here to like help you up by your own bootstraps, but he also wants to make sure that you're the one who's like building yourself up, because if you don't build yourself up, you won't really have anything left to stand on. So without any further delay, I'm going to give it to Brother Rahman. Our format for this is the first segment is kind of be an intro until Maghrib prayer at 8:15, and then we're going to come back and it's going to be heavily discussion based. We also have a lot of requests to live stream. That is going to be in the group chat and on Instagram. So if you want to forward that out to any of your family and friends, just check our group chat on Instagram. So without any further delay, Brother Rahman, about it.
No. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا وحبيبنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن استنى ودعا إلى سنته إلى يوم الدين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Come on, guys. You got to give a little bit of help to make it feel like this is going to be conversational. You can see it's a bit intimate, and that's actually beneficial. I appreciate that it's a bit more intimate because I want us to have a real conversation. I don't think any of us have the answer to all of the questions, and so you just got to give me a little bit more so that we can engage better. So, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay, died down. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. First I want to just start by you all turning to each other and saying salams and like giving each other a hug. So the brothers give each other a hug. Sisters, give each other a hug. Okay, let's start with that. Okay, so what's the point of that? The point of that is we don't do that enough. We don't do that enough. We don't show love and care and genuine just exchange of even biological exchange to each other on a regular basis. And that actually is part of the problem that we have. And so just even the hug between brothers and the hug between sisters has a special bond, which is why the Prophet ﷺ told us, Afshu salama baynakum, that spread the peace, meaning like actually say hi to each other, actually embrace each other, actually ask each other about each other and each other's lives. because that is part of what it means to be a part of a community. So I wanted to just start with that also for myself. So the topic of suicide is a really difficult topic to discuss. And I think anybody who sits up here and says like, oh no, this is commonplace and let's just talk about it, I think would be a lie. And, you know, as Umar mentioned, just having the flyer up that says in big bold letters, breaking the silence on suicide, to me was a win. And I say that as a person who's been a leader in this community for over 20 years, and I stand at the member every single Friday, and I'm very close with many of the leadership team at Adams and across the country. And I know that we don't talk about this topic enough. And I know that Dr. Ramia Awad, may Allah be pleased with her, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward her for all of her effort with Maristan, has actually made this a national and international movement to start to talk about suicide in the Muslim community with even more fervor, knowledge, research, and openness, because now the research shows that talking about suicide actually does not increase the potentiality or the thoughts of suicide. And so there's actual data now that we're starting to gather and make more open to the community, and I think that's very important for us. The other thing is I just want to start with why I'm personally here. Like why would I take on this topic? There's a lot of other topics we can be discussing. This is a personal thing for me. So I have somebody very close to me who has attempted suicide 2 times. And the first time I was the person on the other phone. I was the person on the other line talking them down. And that's an experience you never forget. It's an experience that changes you at an atomic level. And that was the beginning of a very long process that we're still dealing with till today, and that they are still dealing with till today. And so for me, this is not just a theoretical conversation. It's not just an emotional conversation. It's not a spiritual conversation. It's a human conversation. Like we are all dealing with so much. And if we can't be there for each other, and we can't be there as family members, we can't be there as community members, we can't be there just as a human family to talk and deal and just lend a supporting hand where we just reach out and say, hey, I'm here, then I think we are failing the sacred trust that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. And so for me, this is a very important, just to actually be here and have this conversation. I'm not a professional. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a clinician. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. I have been, I've embraced parents and sat in front of them as they talk to me about their children. I have witnessed it myself. I have dealt with young people who are contemplating and thinking through it. But I'm talking about this topic from a position of being a bridge, because I don't think there's enough people that are willing and ready and feel comfortable enough to go to people in leadership to have this conversation, or go to people that do have the titles behind their names and actually say, hey, I think I'm struggling with this, or I think my child is struggling with this, or I think my family member is struggling with this. Because there's so much shame, there's so much stigma, there's so much weight that comes with just that action. So I want to do the best that I can to, one, wake us up to the conversation that needs to be had, and hopefully it's a bridge for the professionals to come into these spaces and have these conversations. So I want to just share with you just a raw moment for me after an exchange that I had, and it's something that I think I had posted, and that's what led to a lot of the experiences that ensued after that. And so I want to just put that on for you. Hopefully the sound works. I don't know what the volume is here.
they change the settings so that they're coming out.
As evidence, I don't know, of what's not.
You see it?
I think it's 2 down, yeah, this one, right? Up, yeah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I just wanted to record this video just as evidence, I don't know, of what's needed. But I just gave a khutbah right now, and it's probably the first time I've ever given a khutbah about, like, openly about suicide and talking about the pain that people feel that gets them to that point, specifically boys and men. And after the khutbah, a father came to me and he told me, he said his son was 22 years old, top of his class, in college in his last semester, took his own life. And you can imagine how heartbreaking it is to hear and see a parent. I don't think I've ever met someone who's gone through that. And he, something that he said that just really breaks my heart is he said, I wish my son would have been in this khutbah when he was going through what he was going through. Maybe something would have been different. And it just breaks my heart because it's taken me this long to be able to give a khutbah like this. How many years, how many countless people we could have saved if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed us to, if we just talked about it, if we just said what's been happening, what's in front of us, what actually takes place. May Allah forgive me, may Allah forgive us collectively, and may Allah have mercy on this young man that was going through this illness, and may He make his family ones that help other families not have to go through this in the future. So my message to you is just, we need to talk more about suicide. We need to talk about it in the Muslim community. We need to talk about it in our families. We need to deal with mental health and not push it under the rug. We need to just talk to each other. We need to reach out to each other. The homework that I gave them today was checking on yourself and checking on somebody that just crossed your mind right now when I was describing this type of pain, and call them and checking on them. May Allah help us and may Allah forgive us.
So that was moments after the khutbah itself, but it was very raw. It was very personal to my experience with that father. And it also was like the first time I felt a deep sense of responsibility to talk about something that's extremely uncomfortable to talk about. I was giving that khutbah from a perspective of different Muslim men that I was coaching. And I wasn't even talking about it from the point of view of suicide. I was actually just talking about it from normal pain that we're carrying that feels overwhelming. It feels like you're the only one going through it. It feels like no one else can understand it. And so I wasn't even talking about it from the perspective of clinically getting to a certain point where you're just like, I want a permanent solution to a very temporary problem. And the father in that moment felt something. And, and so there was a very deep, genuine exchange there. And so I wanted to share that with you because this is me trying to fulfill that trust. I don't know fully what to say. There are going to be words that come out. There are going to be words that are unsaid. But I want us being here in this moment under the lens of this topic to actually be an impetus for something far greater in our community. And I know that Adams is actually one of the forerunners in terms of actually dealing with mental health, and yet still I don't know how many janazas I've attended that turned out to be suicide without anybody knowing, right? And I'm still sitting here wondering why we're not dealing with this in a more proactive way. And why are we still not talking about this? Why are we still not putting more events on? And so I just want to go through a few things that will help at least shed some light and understanding on the type of pain, the type of struggle that comes with this, and then see where that takes us as a group. Because there will be 3 weeks to this. The solutions will not be talked about here. Alhamdulillah, we have at least a resource guide that we put together in a one-pager. I can't stress enough how life-saving the 988 number is. So in the second attempt of this person that's very close, they actually in those last moments called the 988 number. And because they called the 988, as they went about doing whatever they were attempting to do, it was because of the person on the other line of that number that there was a knock on the front door. And so the family opens the front door and they see it's cops. What's going on? And the cops are like, something is happening in this house. And so they go and break down the door, and lo and behold, they find the person. And it was that moment that saved them. And so I can't stress enough what it means to at least even know the resources that exist and that are at our disposal as family members, as people that may be going through the struggle itself. But this paper, take a picture of it, save it, send it to whoever you feel you need to send it to, post it, but it's something that should be on every single person's phone, okay? The next thing I would love to do, I explained to you why I'm here. I would love if you feel safe enough and if you feel comfortable enough to say why you are here. Just so that I can also understand the room, I can understand where we need to take the conversation. So if people feel safe enough to express that, please let me know. If not, we can move on.
I think for me, it's about being a means to help people. In general, I think like with my friends, I try to help those people, but there's people that maybe I'm less connected with, like mutuals on Instagram, or maybe someone I met a long time ago, I had them, something along those lines. And a lot of the times, I think these types of things are one of the causes of suicide would be isolation, or a feeling of isolation. At least for guys, it's a little bit easier for me to interact with guys. I know that even if you take out a suicide, like you can kind of force guys into doing stuff just by being like in camaraderie with them. So if my friend doesn't want to go to the gym, I'm like, come on, bro, let's go. Even if he really doesn't want to, he'll probably come. I think for guys, at least I can't speak for the girls, might be more like a different, more complex issue, but it's kind of just about like roughing through it. I think and just being there like for people, like almost forcing them to just do stuff with you. That makes sense.
So do you know that men are 4 times more likely to be successful at death by suicide? So it's actually, the attempts are far larger for the women and girls, but successful attempts are 4 times greater among men. And between the ages of 10 to 34, it's the second leading cause of death. So I get what you're one of the few people that actually cares enough to sit there and go through the motion of pulling somebody to the gym with you, calling them up, checking in on them, pushing them out of their comfort zone. How many of us actually don't even have that? So like I would actually say you're a huge exception. May Allah reward you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make you a source and a means of ease for those that are in your circle. And hopefully by your actions, others are inspired to do that for other people. And that becomes the effect. and you're rewarded for that. But I do want us to know that it's the concept of isolation, the concept of loneliness is extremely prevalent, not only just in the Muslim community, but just at large within the United States and abroad. So we'll pause for the adhan. And then if there's anybody else after that. So there's just a few minutes before Iqamah, so I want to give people a chance to go make wudu. Is there one more person while you're here? What was the point of coming? What were you looking to get out of today?
I think like a lot of times it's associated with isolation, but at the same time it could be the opposite, or like the happiest people are going to something that you are not aware of. So I think like learning how to like make signs or like be assured to the people that you're accessible, even they don't want to talk about like, whatever they're going through. But I feel like a lot of times we associate isolation and like people that look sad with that, but sometimes it's the opposite. They're like showing that they're the happiest, but you kind of like want to learn how to like underneath that.
Yep.
So I think that's like one thing that I want to be able to like learn how to be able to tell when someone's struggling, even though they're like not showing it or like you're not putting on.
Everybody heard that? Anyone else?
I think for me, like, I've never heard this spoken about within like a religious space before. And I feel like there still is such a gap between like mental health and spiritual health and like the way we talk about it. And I feel like culturally there is a lot of stigma and like dealing with mental health issues is seen as some sort of deficit in your being. But that's not always the case. You know, sometimes people can be making dua and praying really hard and it's just everything else is so overwhelming. So I think figuring out how to bridge that gap and like provide resources that actually help people.
100%. Okay. Alhamdulillah, that definitely will be addressed. Anyone else?
I think that's a situation where someone else thinks I'm worried that my fear of losing someone would make me either freeze and not know what to say because I'm too scared if I do something that will only make them actually do something, or not say enough. I feel like I haven't helped like I was supposed to, so like in the moment, what do I do or what do I say?
So the sister said that she's, one of the reasons that she's here is hoping to understand what is it that in the moment, if somebody is truly in need, what will prevent me from freezing and being able to actually lend the support that's needed in that moment. What can I say? What can I do? How can I prepare myself to be a person that may be of help in that moment? Okay. There was another.
I lost a child when I had suicide when I was in high school, and then I also lost a couple other people. And I know someone who is going through it, and this person,
I know someone who is struggling with someone in their life, and she doesn't know that I know, and I don't know how to like, I feel a little helpless because I think I'm like wanting to protect whatever like shape of privacy. Like, I'm not saying anything because she didn't say anything to me, but I don't know how to, I don't know how to help, and I really feel clueless, and I'm here because I want to support you, the people who are trying to support people who are trying to do it.
Well, thank you for your honesty, and I hope we'll be able to leave here today and give you and equip you with how you can support even that person. And may Allah help all of us leave here with something very tangible and actionable. And may Allah use us as a means of support and ease for ourselves, for our families, for our communities, and for anybody who's around us that Allah puts in our path. May Allah make that something that we can live up to. So we'll break inshallah for salah and then come back after and get into it. Assalamu alaikum.
Just awkward ice.
We can't pause.
Can I end the session? Another session? Is it part one and part two?
I don't think so, you just start calling this off. Like, it's just to be expected. My pen starts a little bit like half an hour later. So they'll be like, if they wanted that, they have their like.
What's that?
I was about to say,
It's my favorite.
I love it watching.
Is he, you know,
Who, me? Oh, yeah. It was also wrong. Yeah. You know, it's not weird, like, I feel like no matter what your parents' culture, they always like opt for that. I know. I know, I always find it interesting when a man is like, but I know. Holidays, like the Christian part, you know, yeah, like the religious aspect. But I think like each culture is so different, you know. Oh, your mom. Yeah. That's nice. Yeah. I like seeing people. I feel like whether it's longer or okay, yeah, so I hate it when it's what has to really fun with them now. Like, girl, you're taking the family. Yeah. I don't like get on. They feel like my parents have never snapped on me, but I don't know how it's a cultural thing, not just it's not really just really different. It's like it's actually so nice. It's so nice. Like very exactly. I don't know. Nothing wrong with it. Yeah, this is the person who likes that. In that case, like America won't be very much good morning. Makes sense. So, right? It's their loss. My mom very much like, if you find a neighbor, you should marry that. They actually, yeah, and they chose, yeah, like they want to be there, they want to. Yeah, that's awesome. Your mom's.
You know, one thing we all are.
What do you guys think? Really? Oh my God, me too. But it's okay, they can see. They didn't want to. Girl, no, listen, the 20 one, tragedy. No, literally. I know, like my sister was born on her birth. Like, you know what I mean? It's not until like certain, like generational things come like, we're gonna, what do you mean? That's like, it's more like technology, and things like that. Even like person, like, do you guys remember person? You did? Okay, so like the last one. Yeah, my sister's on 23, she never person.
Oh, so you did.
You right there, you guys just
Like first grade, and then she brought it back in like sixth grade. Like, do you remember this?
Technology takes a lot, like 4 years between. But the overall, it's Jensen, or you can speak Jensen. Yeah.
But, oh, you're already covered that you're married. Like, this is not.
Are
Oh,
you're still young. I got married at 21. Oh, really?
Oh,
Okay.
It is.
Girl, honestly, no, let me ask something, like, literally don't lose focus. I have, so, let's say I got married when I was 23 or something, right? My friend, like, that's like, the same month of my wedding, girl, she married a husky before me. Like, some people, they move quick, yes, you never know. Exactly, no, like, I mean, even with my cousins and stuff, like, we'll talk to them, they'll be single, and then, like, the next time we talk to them, like, we did it with you. It's like, when did you meet someone? Oh, I talked to them for like a month. Right? I was like, girl, that's crazy. No, but the point is, like, just because you have someone here, like, for a lot of people, like, it's more common these days. I feel like maybe like 5 years ago, it was more like, everybody was like slow paced, like, you have to feel like you have dating, then you have to do like engagement, and then like, it's out like the car or whatever, and then like, you know, now they just like, skip all that, and they're like straight to the point. You know,
Yeah.
so
Probably glad I got a lot of that.
honestly, you never know where you guys will be in a few months.
She said,
No, I'm like,
she's like, that's
girl, at the traffic, I'm telling you guys, you don't understand, the last 10 they didn't know this was people 33 or 6 days ago. Like, they're moving quick, and some of them, I kid you not, my cousin got married the same year as me, 3 kids deep. And like 3 years, Michelle, like, you have no idea. Like I said, my friend, she was like, on my way, she didn't even have a man. And then she literally in both months of meeting him was weird. And now she's like, it goes on, so. Like, all of a sudden, happens. You know, wrong partner, like, no, taking time to be the right one. Yeah. Exactly. No, literally.
no responsibility.
No, literally. Yeah.
It's actually like asking someone, it's like, hey, like, are we canceling? Like, go to the exercise, like, I don't want to do.
Everything. I don't even did that, but the reason why is because, like, I wouldn't, this is my personal life isn't what it was then, because my parents was after I got married. So, like, it's not even like I would move back and be like, oh, we need that. You know, like, it's, exactly, like, it's kind of like, you know, and I sure as hell was like, I'm close to South Shore. So, so for them, it's like, they experience a lot of changes and stuff, but for me, I'm like, I'm good, I go out all the time. You know? No, I don't. Actually, like, yeah, like, the thing is, you know what it is? Do you live in it? Sorry, I'm like, just because I do this. And okay, me too. See, that's why you probably all the because when it's chaotic, no, listen, bro, I feel you. Because when it's chaotic, you can't wait to get alone. Like, and then he starts to tell you something, and I like my whole time. Girl, we're doing also just you and your husband, you don't like a long time no more. Because all of a sudden, like, you're in a quiet environment. I know it's great. I think your phone had hiccup. Like, literally. She stays nosy. Anyways, but no, I think like the value. Yeah, no, you're gonna. Like, it was. Yeah, it's true. That's so true. 100%. Also, I look at her all excuses. I know, right? Wait, so why are you guys on your side? I feel like one of you, no, she answered it, and then did you? No, not yet. But I honestly, I'll go first. I just want to touch all this stuff. Yeah. Yeah, not necessarily. Yeah. Standpoint, yeah. Same, exactly. Oh, that's awesome. psychology of parents, you know? So I definitely have the background, the knowledge. Yeah. But it's not so much on like how it ties into sound. I mean, no, you're like, sorry. Yeah. She was telling me that it's in psychology. I was like, or no, not in psychology. Yes. Awesome. Yeah, I was on the right side. Psychology department. Nice to meet you. Did you Vadia. Like she was not a girl, she said. Yeah. No, it's okay. No, you were just talking about how it's working part time.
Yeah, I just have to like spam, but I don't really.
Yeah, we were talking about like those office space, right? So she mentioned that it's your background. Just the well, I did all that just so that it was no, literally. I'm like, but hey, like, I still got it here. Yeah. Yeah, but like, usually, I don't know, like, the law school or something like that. I'm sorry, I'm not walking around in like, I go to college to yell anyway. And I also wanted to be blind originally, so I did also like criminal lines. And then I was like, man, everybody get shot in the show. I don't want to do that anymore, it's too dangerous. And I'm far too paranoid. And yeah, what did you say? I said, I also got to basically,
Don't worry, I'll get
All right, assalamu alaikum. We're going to start in 30 seconds, so if everyone could please take a seat. We're going to start in 30 seconds, inshallah.
Hello. There's one of us this week.
All right, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We're going to resume. Brother Kamal Khalid.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا وحبيبنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن استنى ودعا إلى سنته إلى يوم الدين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي أما بعد. Let's make inshallah. Now we have more people. Alhamdulillah. So again, what are we going to do? We're going to say salams to each other. Get up, give the person next to you a hug. connect. Let's go. Come on, everybody's gotta do it. Okay. Okay, so Bismillah. So to reiterate, the intention for this session specifically, the ideal was, it was supposed to be me and Brother Abdul Wahab also doing this first session, but he had to travel last minute. But he's been in the mental health space for years, mashallah, and has dealt with a number of these suicide cases in our community. I also wanted him to be part of the session, but alhamdulillah, Allah is the best of planners. But the intention for this session is one, that we have it, and two, that we start to go through as best as we can, because defining what suicide is the successful completion of dying. But there are also something called suicidal thoughts and ideation. And this is where you're thinking about it, you're contemplating it. And so there are stages, being in a coffee shop. There are stages to it. And so we're talking about the entire spectrum, but all of it sits within the mental health space. So suicide is actually a clinical diagnosis that is also typically connected to depression. So anyone who has chronic depression, actually through their clinical journey, there is constant checking in on suicidal thoughts, because it is something that is associated with that from an illness standpoint. And so you're talking about a taboo topic of mental health in and of itself in the Muslim community, which just even 3 years ago, 1 in 5 people in the Muslim community are dealing with mental health issues and challenges. But even within that, you're talking about an even more taboo topic, which is suicide and suicidal thoughts, right? And so there are layers to this challenge. And the reason I'm saying this is because the question that gets asked many times by all of us, so why are we not talking about this more? What is stopping us from having this conversation? And I don't know the full answer to it, to be honest with you. That's why I many times get disgusted within myself, and you saw it firsthand, the level of the lack of awareness that even somebody who's been part of the community, who themselves has dealt with it within their own space and family, was still oblivious to how large of a challenge it is across the board. But I will say that it is very difficult for people to do something about something they don't understand. And I think part of the challenge that we have is actually coming to understand an illness that is unseen. Coming to understand thoughts that are unseen. To what the sister said, many times there are masks that we personally put on to cover up the internal pain that we're carrying. And I say that even for myself, you have to put a face on because the community is relying on you, because your spouse is relying on you, because your children are relying on you, because your parents are relying on you, because your siblings are relying on you. And you find yourself in this performative space where you have to put on a fake face in order to just get through the day. And it is very difficult from a community standpoint to say, if we don't understand it, we tend to ignore it. We tend to put it to the fringes. And we say, how can I address something that I don't know about? I can address a stomach ache, I can address cancer, I can address COVID and a flu and a spread of whatever type of illness, because I see it, there's something tangible happening to the person. I can see the spread. And even then, there was arguments against wearing masks contain the spread. Very similarly, mental health and mental illnesses are dealt with in the same way from an Islamic classical standpoint as any other illness that we deal with. But because we don't see it, and because it's hard for us to understand, because we see the human being as the person we know, their face is the same, their body is the same, yet they're saying things that doesn't make sense, or they're acting in a way that is not normal to them. And so for us, we think there are choices that are happening. They're making certain decisions. They have certain thoughts and perspectives and values that have changed now. But the reality is, because we don't understand it deeply, we shy away from it. And so this is just a first attempt, and I want to really stress a first attempt to just have an even more open conversation about outside of a khutbah, outside of a khatira. You know, one time, a couple months ago, I'll say, you know, there was a certain time where I was talking about this on a weekly basis. That's how impactful it was on me. But I had asked after an Isha Khatira in one of our branches, you know, I asked the people there just out of curiosity for myself. I wanted to know if I was overdoing something. Maybe I was affected by the stories of the people I was interacting with. And I said, I want people to raise their hand if they know someone that has attempted or has passed away by suicide. And you would be surprised, this is a normal Isha congregation, a bunch of uncles and aunties and older people and professionals, and 80% of the congregation raised their hand. And I looked around and I'm like, why the heck are we not talking about this? Like, what? How could this be such a pervasive issue that it's touching every single one of us, and yet this is the first time that we're talking about it? So it's very shocking to me, and I'm trying to wrap my head around why we don't. But I'm hoping that this is at least our first step. And so I presented to the brothers and sisters that were here before Maghrib. We have these papers that have all of the resources from Loudoun County, Fairfax County, 24/7 hotlines that you can take a picture of, save it in your phone, send it to whoever you feel you need to send it to, save it for yourself, use it, utilize it. It's here. These will be here for the next 3 weeks, and we're going to be bringing professionals, inshallah, to be here as well at your disposal as needed. And so this is an opportunity for us, inshallah, to be a bit more open. And I have to lead with myself first and foremost to just model that for us as a community. And so I hope that that's my attempt, and I hope the intention is accepted through that. Any questions before I start? Any comments before I start? Okay, so I asked in the beginning, you know, I explained why I'm here, and then I asked, and we had a few brothers and sisters, alhamdulillah, share with us why they're here and wanting to learn more, wanting to know what to say, what to do, how to think about this very tragic situation that we find ourselves in. And so whether so understanding is step one. Knowing someone who is struggling, but you're not sure what to say or do, and whether you yourself are carrying something that you feel is too burdensome, that you feel you just wanted a space to sit down and listen and know that you're not the only one thinking about this. Like, honestly, just looking around the room, I hope it gives, because I know it gives me comfort to know that I'm not the only. I was sitting here messaging with them, I'm like, I don't know how many people are going to show up to this. And so looking around and at least having this many people that were not afraid of the labeling and the name and the stigma that comes behind suicide, and still showed up, to me is a validation that we're in this together, that we're thinking about this, that we're concerned about this, that we want to do something about this. And that should be a powerful validation for us personally and inshallah community. And so another question that constantly comes up, and we hear this all the time, is Islam doesn't talk about suicide because there is this very clear conception that somebody who is right of mind, fully rational, knows the decisions that they're making. If they take their own life, that is sinful. And so we take that as a overarching statement, and we now apply it and say, because of that, every single person that dies by suicide, it falls into that category. And the problem with that is now what we know about suicide, which is that it is a clinical diagnosis of a person that was suffering from something that overtook and created an imbalance within themselves that led to that. And so it's very difficult for us to sit back and start to make judgments on the labeling of death, the cause of death being suicide. And so family members now sit and suffer from this stigma that if anyone in your family has died by suicide, then they fall into this category. Then they are haram, then they are sinful, and so what does that create? It creates spiritual shame. And so I want us to be very clear, and this was the feeling that I got after this father embraced me and he said, I wish my son was here to just listen to this, because perhaps I would have had a conversation with him. Perhaps that would have sparked an additional attempt by me to dig a little bit deeper, ask different questions. Even that is the father looking for some sort of hope. But by that point, the young man had probably already been going through mental health challenges for a long time and suffering for a long time. But for us, it is imperative as a religious community, where even our maqasid of Sharia, our objectives of the Sharia, the top one or top two, depending on where you put them, is hifz al-nafs, is the protection and the preservation of life. And right now we're in a position where I feel compelled as a community member that this is a point where we need to work towards preserving life, because we're not. Now it's happening too often. And I feel ashamed that we have the platforms, we have the knowledge, we have the imam that is at the forefront of leading many of these mental health initiatives and being very open, and we've created an entire network of mental health professionals that are subsidized for this community, and yet they are completely overburdened. The wait lists are bursting at the seams, and yet we still have many of these cases happening within our community. So something has to change, right? And it's a religious imperative for us to change it. And somebody before this mentioned to me that even the way sometimes we talk about religious texts like the Quran or different ahadith, and the way that we interpret them actually inadvertently, maybe unintentionally, maybe unknowingly creates more shame and more pain and more suffering on families that are either right now still going through the pain of losing a loved one, or they're dealing with someone who is going through the ideation process, the mental health challenges. And so a very clear example of this is لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. This is an ayah that comes after, this is an ayah in Surah Al-Baqarah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that there is a limit to where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold us accountable. And that limit is to every single person's individual capacity. I have a certain capacity where I just can't handle something beyond that. Another person, their capacity may be higher, may be lower. anything above that capacity will not be held accountable for. But the interpretation of this ayah usually is done because of maybe poor English, maybe because of poor understanding, that no. If you've been burdened with this test, you can handle it. Which means you should be able to deal with the suffering. You should be able to continue fighting and roughing through it and battling through it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will only give it to you because you can handle it. That kind of nonsense will drive anybody over the edge. So we're saying that the people of Gaza right now that are being bombed on a daily basis and are living in their own rubble and witnessing their family members and their not to go into more details, we are saying, Allah is saying to them, you can handle this. This is a burden you should carry. And that they are going to be held accountable up to that burden because they're still alive. That's absolutely, that is not from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But every human being has a level of capacity that they can deal with. And anything beyond that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us, He doesn't hold us accountable. So what I'm saying here is that this is a religious imperative for us, and that we are talking about this topic not despite our faith, but actually because Islam tells us to talk about it. Because we must take action in order to preserve our community and our families. So what is leading to the silence around the topic of suicide? The first one we mentioned, your pain is shameful. If you're having suicidal ideation, that means you don't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That means you have weak iman. That means you're not a good enough Muslim. That means you're questioning your faith. So it doesn't take into account the normal day-to-day pressures of living in a society that measures you against your output and your productivity, and doesn't take into account the economic pressures, the familial pressures. You have sick parents, you have sick children, you are dealing with your own illnesses. It doesn't take into account hormonal changes, chemical imbalances, but rather we focus on the pain itself. If you're thinking about it, that's a shame on you. So this is why we are silent around it. The people who are suffering from this pain don't want to bring it to anybody around them because they feel they're going to be judged. Like, you're going to now look at me differently. You're going to look at me as though something is wrong with me. And so many people, and this is why the sister, when you mentioned, it's not always the people in isolation that we should be worried about. It's actually sometimes the people that are most out there. The silence is actually beneath the mask. The pain is beneath the exterior facade of happiness and joy. Let me go do this, and it can plague any of us. So your pain, this is what silence tells the struggling person. Your pain is shameful. You're the only one who feels this way. This is a constant thought that I hear from many people that sit in front of me that say nobody else is going through this. I'm the only one that thinks this way. I'm the only one that has this issue. And it's like meeting after meeting, conversation after conversation, you see all of the patterns that are so common across ethnicity, language, race, each socioeconomic status. They're all the same. We're all human. We are all created weak. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the source of strength. We should not think that we are stronger than anything else. Allah tells us He created us weak. So that we are going to have moments where we struggle with certain thoughts. We struggle with imbalances. We struggle with physical, psychological, spiritual challenges. And you're not the only one who feels that way. I can guarantee you. If you struggle, you must be a bad Muslim. There's no one safe to tell. You're alone in this. These are the constant thoughts and ruminations that many people go through. Now, what would, from a community standpoint, what would be the alternative to this? You're not alone. We see you and we see your pain. So just that khutbah where I was just articulating the pain of people that I heard, or even my own pain. That is what makes us feel seen. It's like, man, this guy is saying what I'm already thinking. How did he know? Because we're all going through it. Struggling does not make you less faithful. You know, Dr. Rania Awad, she gave a story that her sheikh, her teacher, who was teaching her Islam, Hafid al-Quran, like literally professor in the university teaching them about Islam, attempted suicide because he was sick. And she said it shook them, it shook all of the students. How could the person we are taking deen from, we're taking knowledge from, we're taking Islam from, how could he have fallen into this? And it was at that point she realized this is a human challenge. Your faith is not the thing that protects you from having a mental illness. Just like your faith is not going to protect you from having a stomach bug. It's not going to protect you from getting the flu. It's not going to protect you from having a cold. It's not going to protect you from getting cancer. It's still going to happen. Now, how do you deal with it? Who do you have around you to help support you? You can speak here and be heard. Help exists, and it's not shameful to seek it. This community will not leave you. I can tell you that I know many families that have had a loss in their family from suicide. Feel like the community did leave them. They don't feel accepted. They don't feel like they were embraced. They actually felt like they can never come back. I can't show my face anymore. How could I ever step foot in this masjid? What are these people going to think about me? Like, on top of the pain and the grief that you're feeling with the lost one, that now you also feel like you've lost an entire community, that's a shame on us. That's a shame on me for not being a source of comfort and relief in people's most difficult time. Suicide is multifaceted. And I think it's very important to understand it's not one thing that leads to a person taking a very permanent solution to a temporary problem that they're dealing with. It has sociological challenges, it has psychological challenges, it has spiritual challenges, it has sociological challenges, it has biological challenges. All of this is a multifaceted cocktail of challenges that a human being is going through that leads to a point where they feel like there is no other solution. The options in front of them are limited. And so this is a just a few challenges that I want to go through just to help us understand a bit deeper. Loneliness is a big thing. Most of us think we're not lonely because we're surrounded by people. But if I say, like, when we sit in the masjid and you may be praying next to the same person every day for Isha and Fajr, and then I sat there and asked you, hey, what's their name? What are they going through? How many kids do they have? What is the family life like? Are they struggling? What do you, just tell me something about them. I guarantee none of us are going to know even the name of the person that we're praying next to, but we see them every day. And if without the pictures on the janazah email, we may not even know that they passed away. So when we sit here and say, no, we're not lonely because we're coming. We have a community, we've got people that we see, people know me and I'm showing up, and that doesn't stop the loneliness. There's a superficiality that we have built. Now that does have some value. Just us being here together in a room, hugging each other, is a exchange of love and care and oxytocin and builds the serotonin in the room, and there's something that's happening. But it doesn't mean that I'm not lonely when I leave here and nobody checks in on me, nobody sends me a text, nobody is actually saying, hey, did you make it home safely? So loneliness is a big issue. Depression, as we mentioned, is one of the most closely related. Chronic depression is one of the most closely related illnesses to suicide. And so I want to put it under the bucket of just mental health in general, that we don't even speak openly with each other, even as families who may be supporting and taking care of someone who has mental health. We don't even talk about it. We don't have support groups that we feel even comfortable enough to go to and say, hey, I'm really struggling taking care of my daughter, I'm really struggling taking care of my son, or I'm struggling taking care of my mother or my father who's dealing with this. So I want to put that in the bucket. Then the pressure of just being a good family person, my identity as just a believer in a country that doesn't want to see me or accept me or, acknowledge my existence. And then I'm seeing everything else that's happening around the world where there is this erasure of my identity completely. But there's a lot of pressure, and then you have to feel like you're climbing the ladder and you've been told and sold a certain dream. So there's a lot of misalignment that compounds and silently eats away at us. And then there is trauma. Many of us that don't talk about this, or we try to even forget about it, but a lot of the mental health challenges also come from childhood traumatic experiences that we may not even remember ourselves. So there's been many cases that I've come in contact with where sexual abuse happened at a very young age. And it doesn't manifest its evil horns until later in life, where it manifests into something that is far more pervasive and painful. And so there's something happening under the surface there that we also, and then shame that forces the silence between each other. So anything that you see on here, kind of give me, you guys are all silent. I feel like this is not supposed to be a one-way conversation. What are some thoughts on what we talked about so far? Is it helpful?
No, I liked it. It was pretty helpful.
I'm curious, like when you say support groups, if I had more so speaking from experience with guys, there's always an embarrassment to ask someone else for help. It's just even for my best friend, if I was ever going through something, it's always weird. It just feels weird to bring it up. Even a support group in my head seems too formal.
100%.
For another solution. I think more so it's friendships. I'm not familiar with how support groups work, so it could be ignorant of me, but in my head it's
No, there's a stigma to that.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a
It
stigma.
sounds so formal, well, it's a big thing, rather than just fill it out, start figuring out or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is a support group, but it's just less.
Yeah. So even, I want to just pick on the first part that you said, which is even you feeling this hesitation to let people know when you're struggling or when you're dealing with something like that. Just think about that, even if you don't have going through even biological effects, chemical effects of within your body. Just that fear of I don't even know who to turn to. That in and of itself is part of the problem. What is it that's stopping us from reaching out and feeling comfortable enough to say bro, I'm struggling. I just need somebody to hang out with. Just come by the house, or let's just go out. Why do we struggle to do that? And I'm saying even myself, a lot of times my wife is just why don't you reach out to friends? Why don't you just go hang out with them? I don't want to burden anybody else. I don't want to, but I'm I know I'm struggling. I know that I'm maybe taking on too much. I know that maybe there's too much weight or pressure, but it's how do we break through that point where there is a space? I don't care what we call it, support group space, sohba, rijal, whatever it is. But what's that space where I know that if I just drop something in there to say, hey, I'm struggling, guys, that all the brothers are going to show up. All the sisters are going to show up. And that is part of the sunnah that we're missing, right? Part of the sunnah is actually ziyarah. There's a huge part of our tradition that is about going to visit people. The Prophet ﷺ, after Fajr and the Qaylula, most of the time that he would spend is actually going to different people's houses and just trying to see what their needs are, just to hang out with them. Sometimes he's just showing up like, oh, we want to feed you, come on in. But for us, there is a formality from a societal standpoint because of our individualistic mindset of being like, my home is my home and I don't want people to enter. Like if you lived in a different country, went back to maybe where your parents or maybe different ancestors came from, the houses are always open, doors are always open, people knocking on it, checking in on you. Oh, how are you doing? We think here, man, my family is imposing too much. But the reality is just even having that hustle and bustle of family around you is a great point to get you out of your own head, right? That's a challenge that we have to figure out collectively. How do we break that down? How do we break out of this idea that I don't have somebody to turn to, or I'm ashamed, or I'm afraid, or like, it's gonna make me look weak. I don't want this guy to know. I don't want this. Oh, the sister, she's gonna worry about me too much, or I'm never gonna get married if I say this, because it's going to get out there and it's going to be posted on social media. Like now there's a lot of other factors people are thinking through before they even say a word, because maybe they don't have enough trust in the system that we have.
Sometimes, okay, this is like very basic information when it comes to just like communication, like the communication class, and there was something that like, I feel like I kind of was doing instinctually, but I hadn't heard him say out loud, like in this class, and it's that we develop like depth in a relationship through mutual disclosure. And that mutual disclosure just, it allows closeness, and it allows trust and better understanding of one another. Because realistically, like we all speak, like our words can mean anything, like we can envision different things when someone says a single word, all of us, and so there's like this ambiguity in just the English language alone, but just being like that divulgence and just the disclosure is what allows us to understand each other better, regardless of the ambiguity of language. It
100%.
creates the bond, and so maybe sometimes, I don't know, maybe.
But how do we get to that mutual disclosure?
We initiate. So that
You have to model it.
Yeah, for other people to feel that openness. Sometimes people might not reciprocate. There has to be that reciprocation of mutual disclosure, or that reciprocation for it to become mutual disclosure. But again, it's whatever that other person feels comfortable with. You know what I mean? Like you can only do so much, but you can express what you can, and you can share about your own self and your own struggles. And maybe that person might not feel welcome to sharing, but I don't know, that's something that I've noticed that like my relationships definitely grow stronger when I start the initiation of when I take on the responsibility of initiating the depth.
Absolutely, 100%. Could not agree. 20 minutes, that's it. But mutual disclosure, that sounds very formal, but really what it means is like, let's just have a real conversation with each other. And my wife many times, she tells me like, I don't want to go deep in like certain, sometimes and this is why actually maybe I do resist hanging out with certain people, because I feel like it's sometimes too superficial. Like I'm the type of person, like I'm gonna jump right into it, but let's get to the real thing. And many times people, that's like uncomfortable. Like it's like, bro, let's just have fun together, which is okay. I think there are times where keeping it light is important, but to your point, I couldn't agree more. And I think that's what's also happening at a community level. And for people who are trying to build community, it's still just very transactional. A lot of our relationships are very transactional. Like, what am I going to get out of this situation? What are you going to do for me, and what am I going to do for you? Versus like me sharing, I don't get, there is something I'm naturally getting out of it, right? Even me articulating the depths of my feelings, putting those into words, that's actually a process in and of itself. But it's like, I'm not expecting anything from that person. And they're not expecting anything from me. It's just a mutual exchange of how you're doing. And I'll give you this example that subhanAllah, like, I don't know why it happens, but it happened. But somebody reached out to me just last week. I've never met this human being ever in my life. They live in Amsterdam. They've been following me, I think, on LinkedIn, and I randomly get a message from them on LinkedIn, and they're like, hey, do you know any marriage counselors? I'm like, I don't know this person. So I'm like, yes, I do, but can you give me some more details? Where are you located? Like, how am I supposed to send you the right person? He's like, yeah, I live in Amsterdam, and I've been married for 3 months, and we're going through some challenges. And so I don't know this is in the middle of the work day. But for me, in that moment, I'm like, Allah is putting an opportunity in front of me where another human being even had the courage to reach out to this random person across the world. At the minimum, I need to just at least say, hey, do you want to have a conversation? And so I said that, and he's like, yes, like I would love to. I'm about to go on a run, like I'd love to talk. And subhanAllah, we never met. We have no human connection outside of him being Muslim. And on his run, he's divulging these details about his life, and we're just having a human conversation with each other. And subhanAllah, he just messaged me a couple days ago, and he's like, things are so much better. Thank you so much for just listening. And I'm like, how many family members did he have in his vicinity? How many community members could he have had in his vicinity that he could just, or older brothers, older mentor figures? And yet Allah said, no, this LinkedIn message needs to be answered, and you guys need to get on a phone call and have a conversation. So all I'm saying is, I don't know how many of us would do that and just be comfortable enough to like open up about something that is deeply, deeply personal. I mean, the guy is contemplating leaving his wife. Who the heck, like, it still shocks me. But it's like, I feel grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have been part of his story. He didn't do me, and I didn't do anything for him. He actually did me a service. Like, he reinstated my hope in humanity that, like, just because we say, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, like, I have a connection to you. I'm instantaneously connected to you at a visceral level. And I'm okay to share and be like, bro, I just need help. Allah. I don't know, so I have a bunch of slides. I really didn't want to do slides, to be honest with you. So why don't we just start the discussion parts? I want to do it differently, not in like breakout groups. I actually just want us all to just have a conversation. Yeah.
I came a little bit late, so I don't know if you're coming. But this happened something that's not on my mind a lot. When it comes to suicide, I think about our community in America facing genocide in certain countries. And, I read stories and I watch interviews of women in Sudan who are being violated and tortured, and they take their own lives because of that. And then even my own people who are facing genocide where their Islam is being taken away from them and they're being physically and mentally tortured, denouncing Islam as a faith. So I don't know how to make that, because in a lot of these cases they take their own lives because they feel like they have no other option. And I know there's a hadith that says that you're not supposed to make dua or wish for death because of a hardship. But what do we make of this when there are situations where these people are not in control of this? What do we make of this?
So this, we covered a little bit of what has been weaponized as like spiritual interpretation and abuse sometimes, where we say, oh no, Allah would not test them with something beyond their capacity. So having gone through that should have been in their capacity, and they should just live on through that. It's ridiculous to think that. I mean, those horrors, and even not just the ones who are going through it and experiencing it, but also all of us who are witnessing it around the world, it has severe effects on us and our mental states. And that's why I'm saying these overarching judgments of why somebody does what they do, and what would have led them to take their life through suicide, what would have led them to have suicide be the cause of death is so multifaceted. So to answer, not to give you an answer to your question, but to empathize with you in terms of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us about this, there are situations there where this is beyond their capacity. And you can imagine the horrors that they are facing and what they're experiencing. How do you rationalize that, right? How do you put that into what other options? And this is why somebody even, I was listening to, what's his name? Mike Beasley. Michael Beasley came out recently very openly about, this is a horrible comparison from genocide to a basketball player. But there was something very profound that he said, which is don't judge a person by the choices they make when you don't even know the options they have. And I just felt like that was haq. That was truth. Like what choice did I have in front of me? What options did I have to even choose from? When you're telling me it's either live and be, mutilated and destroyed and murdered myself, or save my. And these conditions, I'm not a judge of, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the ultimate judge. And all that I can say is may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on the ones who took their lives with the options they had in front of them. And so all that, I think from our standpoint, is what's the effect of the people that remain after that? Like what's the effect of us who are witnessing and feeling this? How do we rationalize that test for ourselves and not allow it to be as best as we can? How do we deal and cope with that? And that's the deeper question that I would ask, because I think a lot of people from our standpoint who are witnessing the genocide, that is affecting our mental health. That is affecting our ability to see the world clearly. It is affecting our ability to make decisions. It is affecting our ability to have hope in what's to come. And I will say with Maryam alayhi salam, what did she say just by going through the process of birth? Ya laytani mittu qabla hada wa kuntu nasiyan mansiya. Ya Allah, I wish I was never born and I was completely forgotten because of how painful just childbirth was. Yet we see what's happening with so it's I don't hope or wish to ever be in a position where I have to make a choice like that. And we ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevates the ranks of those people that have gone through unimaginable torture and pain. And we ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants them the highest levels of paradise and the highest levels of His pleasure. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala frees the people that are going through this unimaginable pain on a daily basis. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants them some relief in their hearts and in their environment. 10 minutes. Okay, so we're going to have a discussion now. Do you want to come and kick off?
I can do it briefly.
Yes.
I'll start.
But 9:45 is our show.
Yeah, but I know we're gonna go later anyway, so I'll like preempt that.
So, Assalamualaikum. We're going to do some discussion questions now. I just want to go through some of the community guidelines that we have very, very quickly to set the stage, especially because this is a pretty intense topic. Brother Rahman, I think I sent you some the slides for what those guidelines are. I'll roll through them and you can pull them up. We have say yes and. So we don't want people to really explicitly disagree with each other. If somebody says something you disagree with, say yes and, let them say their piece and then you say your piece. We have, someone remind me, there's another one. Campground rules, yes. We want to leave the area cleaner than how we found it, so just help us pack up. Thank you. There's another one. See something, say something. So if you see somebody having an emotional response to something, which very well could happen in this conversation, hold that emotional space for them, make sure that they're all right, comfort them if they need it, meet that emotional energy, just like really positive. So just like be emotionally aware enough to do that. Yes. Maintain the amount, yes. So people are probably going to share very private, sensitive stories in these circles. So if you recognize that there's a private story that you would not want to be shared elsewhere, don't share it elsewhere. Maintain the amount means maintaining the trust. We have keep it halal. For this one specifically, I think the most important thing is please don't backbite about people. So if you're sharing something sensitive, don't use their actual name, be vague enough that no one can tell what that is. We also have, say it again? Yeah, old friends, treat people like they are your old friends, like you know them for a long time, be open, be vulnerable with them, be chill, be casual, don't be anxious, you're good. Step up, step back, we want everyone to be able to speak, and we don't want any one person to dominate the conversation, so step up, say your piece, and step back, let someone else say their piece, and if there's time, you can go again. And then I think there's one more, right? That's not gonna, all right, the last one is embrace discomfort. I think it's really relevant here. Again, we don't normally talk about subjects like suicide and mental health, but you need to have these conversations, and the more you have them, the easier they get. You gotta step outside your comfort zone a little bit. It's the only way to grow. So I'll hand it over to our brother, that's mine.
Do you have the question?
I do have a question. I can pull them up.
There's something else we can kind of hear and feel from the room that there are probably stories and experiences that many of us and our family members and our extended family, that just as a community, we're going through and we're experiencing. And so to think that any of us is actually immune to feeling a sense of hopelessness, a sense of like, what's the point? Where is this gonna go? Like, how long can we, this is what Allah says in the Quran, even that the people, like they got to a point where they also started to just question, like, when is Allah going to save us from this? Like, how much pain can we endure? Like, how much more can we just continue? And inna nasrallahi qareeb. And I know that sometimes that's a very difficult concept to wrestle with. But where I see the nasr of Allah coming from is actually through each other. Like through these moments where we do feel, how could Allah have sent this person at this exact moment? You know how many experiences I've had where it's like, there are moments where somebody on the other line would just say like, bro, you have no idea where I was at, what I was thinking, what I was about to do. And Allah had you call me at this moment, or you sent that message, and that message relieved me. So I think that's part of the nasr of Allah is actually through us. If each of us actually took on a sense of responsibility and amana for each other, to say, just think, if a person clicks in your mind, that it was a khatar. This is why they say like, khatir, it's the things that cross your mind, just to reflect. If there's a person that has just crossed your mind, even in this conversation, immediately picking up the phone, sending a text, making a phone call, like that may be the nasr Allah is sending to the person in their darkest moments. And this is actually the thing that we hear in some of these final moments, that people, they don't know what other choice they have, what other option they have. Sometimes they try to pick up the phone and call somebody. It's actually one of the most well-known things with suicide attempts, that they search for a final person to reach out to. And so the question becomes, can we preempt, just by making it a consistent habit for us as believers, to just reach out to each other, just check in on each other, just send a message, just make a phone call, just grab the hand, and just be like, hey man, how you doing? How's everything going? I've missed you. I love you. And that sometimes I think goes beyond the words that we can describe. Okay, so this was a good one because the brother had mentioned this, and I want to know we can just say, so this is an open discussion. I don't want to do like a closed group. Like, I actually think we can benefit from each other, and I'm just going to sit here with you guys. So are you the type who normally shares difficulties that you're going through with others? That's the question. Are you normally the type of person that shares your personal difficulties with others that you trust?
I personally, I'll only share with someone that I've known for a long time.
that I know someone that I can trust, someone that I know deeply. Otherwise it is true that, you know, people project who they are. So if you go around sharing to everyone willy-nilly, like someone that has respect for themselves, they're gonna have respect for you and not share, and, you know, really respect that boundary of not giving out your personal information. But someone that hates themselves is gonna hate you and be like, oh, you know, this guy, this girl is, you know, whiny, they're weak, or something like that. They're just gonna project themselves. So that's just how it is. You know what you look for.
So then, let me just ask a follow-up, like, how many of those people do we have in our lives? Like, if I ask the question, how many of you have like, what do we call it? Not the BFF these days, but like, that last phone call, like phone a friend.
Ride or die?
Your ride or die, your phone a friend. How many of us have more than one? Okay, how many of, okay, that's probably them. So how many of us don't even have one? No, you gotta be honest too, like, we gotta share, we gotta be honest with each other. Okay, so everybody here then has more than at least one person that they would call in a moment where they absolutely need it. That's what we're saying?
Or they have one.
Or they own, yeah, I asked if you have more than one,
Okay.
and then I asked less than one, that's what I asked?
If you have none.
None, okay, so all of us just have one. Okay. Okay.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, but Allah, I want to see Allah manifested in the people He put around you too. So hold on, so how many people just have one? Okay, so you feel comfortable, meaning the depth that the brother was talking about, you feel comfortable with probably just one person in your life that you could actually reach out to, that you feel will come through and you can open up to them about anything. Okay, what happens if that one person isn't available?
You call 988.
And that's deep.
That's why it's there.
That's why it's there.
I'm kind of the opposite. I'll kind of like travel down on strangers who I don't know that much. It's like low risk. You know, it's not really.